What's going on, y'all? This is Bigg Vinny. This over here is Jeff Suter, and this over here is my buddy Jared Blake. Y'all clap your fingers.
Woo!
Yeah. Now you stop. Now you clap your.
Woo!
It didn't work. There he is.
There I am.
Anyways, we are, you may notice a little change in the scenery in the background. We have switched over and we are officially with the Hit Labs. So we're going to be rocking and rolling with that. It's going to be awesome. I hope you're loving the new look. The blue, refined. We're refined AF is what Jared has let us know now. So, anyways, today we're going to be talking to you about a trip we just made to Jamaica. And on this trip to Jamaica, we got to do all kinds of great things. And we're going to talk about it in this episode. I could tell you all of it right now myself, but I got other people here with me.
Right. Look at Vinny learning how to let other people speak.
That's going to be hard. Anyway, so this trip we just went on, Jeff, I unfortunately didn't get to go because y'all's passports are like outdated. So we got to get your passports fixed so you can go next time. But it was so cool. I'd never been out of the country other than Mexico and Canada. So getting to go somewhere that was like a completely different country outside of the United States was a big deal for me, and I was excited about it. Jared is very well versed in going to these non-connecting countries. Woo! Anyway, but this all kind of got set up. A buddy of ours came to us and said, "Hey, I want to do one of my golf tournaments." His name is Josh Likens. If you look him up, I'm going to do one of my golf tournaments. I'd like for y'all to be the beneficiary with y'all's charity. And we're like, "Oh, that's great. What do you want to do?" He goes, "I want to do it in Jamaica in December." We're like, "Dude, Jamaica in December sounds amazing." He goes, "Yeah, so you get to come play golf and we'll put you up and all this other stuff. And then, we raise money for the charity." So I'm like, that sounds awesome. But I love the fact that, when this all happened, this was really a lot on Jared. So we were going to go sing for this charity. We were going to make some money for him, this and that. But Jared wanted to take it a step further. So Jared, I want you to kind of give a little quick recap, and then we'll go into details on stuff on what we were doing, why we were doing it, and how you kind of found this individual place.
Yeah. So, I mean, obviously anybody that knows me knows that I always take it a step further. Sometimes that's good and sometimes that's bad. But, every time we go out, I always want to try to find a way that we're giving back to the community, and how we're affecting whatever community we're in. And I'm not sure, outside of God, not sure why this one occurred to me. I was like, well, we do children's stuff. Why don't we, since we're not going to be able to do anything in Murfreesboro this year because we're just super busy, I was like, why don't we go and check out an orphanage or something over there? Now, at the time that I had that idea, I didn't know anything about children's home, orphanage. I kind of had them all in my head as just an orphanage. And so I just Googled Montego Bay orphanages, and all these children homes popped up. And I read through some of them, and one in particular really jumped out at me, just their messaging. Because I think obviously, I'm always going to be willing and wanting to help in any way I can, but it always feels better whenever you're working with someone that that you have the same values with. They would understand your message the best. Obviously, any place that they're already talking to the kids in a certain direction, it makes our message a lot easier to convey. And we found this place called Robin's Nest. And I forget the details of how it got started, but it was based off of faith. And one of the things that it was a children's home where these children weren't really supposed to be there that long. They were hoping that they weren't there any more than like 2 or 3 years. It was intended for the children to come in there, parents get their lives together, and then, get things going and bring the children back. And I didn't realize that was even a thing, really. Now the downside of that is that a child can also go to a children's home, and if the parent doesn't get their life together, then they also don't give up the rights for that child to be adopted. That child is just stuck in this home then, which is super, super shitty.
Yeah.
I mean, so it was cool to get to learn about those things. But in this particular one, they understood that they didn't know if the parents were ever going to come back. They also knew that the people that were coming into their life were going to leave their life, because whether it was me and Vinny going down there and spreading some cheer for a little bit, or if it was a worker, those people were going to be leaving their lives, or they'd be leaving that home to be adopted. But either way, these people would be coming and going their life. So the only thing they could find that like, hey, we can give you something that will never leave though, and that's Jesus. You walk with Jesus, you befriend Jesus. Don't worry about the different people that come and go, because Jesus is going to be there with you no matter what and where you go. And that was the message that really, jumped out at me and why I chose that one. And contacted him, got in touch with this guy named Chris. And it turns out Chris had made a little decent money here in the U.S. I think, was it Virginia?
Mm-hmm.
Virginia. And him and his wife just felt like they were called to do this. And he literally just quit his job, sold their house, sold their cars, sold all his guns, golf clubs, everything he had. They just sold it. And they moved to Jamaica because it was a no-pay job and you had to sign up for a minimum of 2 years. And so him and his wife signed up to do this job for no pay and just living off of what they sold of their stuff. And that was the first part that really got me about that story, because all of us have done okay. And as you start making more money, the natural thing is you got two routes. People either just spend the money they make, or you hoard it somewhere, or you invest it. And all three of us are much more that invest. That's three. Yeah.
Routes.
Yeah. I made a third route. Sorry.
I'm good at math.
I made a third one. Sorry. And the third one is clearly like where guys like us sit, but it never really occurred to me, like with what they were doing, like you're sacrificing and you're going to utilize this money, and you don't know if you're ever going to make that kind of money again. You don't know where life is going.
Yeah, you're going to take 2 to 3 years out of your life to go and serve here and
spend the money that you had created.
But when you come back, if you have to go back to work, all those opportunities may have done passed you by.
Right,
the amount of technology change alone.
It could be 2008 again, and you come back into that climate, like you don't know. And so I thought that was just a beautiful testament of how much they were trusting God. And so that's why we chose that one. And man, it did not I don't know if I had a thought of what I was going to receive out of it.
Yeah.
I just thought, let's go down there and do the Live to Be program in front of these kids. And then I thought, well, why don't we also bring Christmas down there? And we had a lot of great partners come on board to help us do that. And very thankful to Vinny and his wife and my wife, knowing that in those moments, whenever I do come up with these ideas, I go, hey, we're going to do this, that everybody just goes, okay.
Yeah.
Like it's beautiful that you have people that trust you, that have the same heart as you and have faith in you to go, yeah, let's do it.
Yeah. I think for me, obviously we always try to do as many charity things as we can. We love doing that, spreading our music, doing what we do. We've been doing that. And I think when this one came, I was like, okay, I said, it's a cool opportunity. The orphanage wasn't even a part of it at the original thing, but our charity, we kind of always joke and say our charity raises money for other charities. And so the first thing he said was,
because we do.
Because that's what we do.
Facts.
But, the first thing he said was, hey, let's do something for Christmas. It's close to Christmas time. Let's do this. So we end up finding the charity, or he finds the children's home, not an orphanage. He finds the children's home, and to me, it's like, okay, now we're going to get to do something good. We get a paid vacation. Now, we weren't getting paid to do it, but it was paid for. So it's like our rooms were paid for, our food was paid for, all that kind of stuff was paid for. So it's like, I'm using my talents to do something that God would want me to do. I'm going to get a free vacation and get to take my wife with me on this one, which she don't know, our wives don't always get to go with us, so it was really cool. But I didn't know how much my spirit was going to be fed, how much my soul was going to be fed while I was there. And so even on the bus ride up there, we get in this bus and we start traveling. It's kind of like, the roads of Jamaica, they're not bad. You're driving on the opposite side, which was unique. It was definitely took me a minute to get used to, like sitting on the left side and not being the driver, especially because I rode up front. But we get all the way to this road that we're supposed to turn on. I'm like, oh, we're here. Nah, bro. We get to this road and it's like the ruins. It's like there used to be grass.
The driver goes, okay, the pretty road is over.
And the road over wasn't pretty. So I'm telling you, it's like riding on an old 4-wheeler trail, but we're in a big old bus.
Yeah, the bus is scraping like,
hitting limbs on the thing. I'm like, holy crap. But we're going through there and they're showing us, and there's like these old resorts. There's like this old resort back there called the Orange Rat.
Orange something, yeah.
The Orange something Rat, But anyways, it had like these orange, these trees around it that had these big orange blooms. And it was like this old resort that people used to go and stay. And it was off, away from the ocean. So it kind of went downhill after that. But we're riding back through and you can see these old houses that were like these beautiful Spanish type homes or whatever. And we just keep traveling through, and they're like, oh yeah, and this over here where this happened, that happened. They're kind of explaining things to us. And we look and we get to like this, almost like a trailer park, but it was made out of like some kind of clay or something like that. And you look over, there's people out there with their clothes on the line hung up, and they're out there just playing with their dogs and their goats. They had a lot of goats. And you could tell you were in a very
washing their dishes outside with a water hose.
With a water hose and a toothbrush, So you could kind of tell you like you were in a poverty-stricken place. And then we get to the top of this big old massive hill. I'm literally like an hour of riding on this, looking like Ace Ventura and, when nature calls, or Pet Detective, whatever it is. So we get to the top, and then there's this awesome, almost like a mini castle kind of thing up there, like that would have been built all these years ago, this home. And it was beautiful. It had a swimming pool.
Overlooks Montego Bay.
And you can see the ocean from there. And then it's like this. He's like, yeah, he goes, don't worry, man. He goes, it's ugly on the way there, but it's paradise when you get there. I'm like, okay, sure it is, buddy. And then we get there. I'm like, holy crap, this place is beautiful. But you go in, and so as soon as we pull up, there's all these kids standing outside, and they're excited because something good is happening that day. And so we pull up, and immediately we get out and we start unloading all this stuff. They have no clue. We got all the presents hid inside of all these suitcases that him and his wife had. And the Stegs brought some. And anyways, they wheel those in. I'm wearing my Santa Claus hat, my overalls, and a bright red shirt because, hey, I want to be Santa Claus. And as soon as they saw me, they're like, Santa. So I was Santa the whole day. But anyways, we get out, and then this little bitty 2.5-year-old just walks right up to my wife, and is like, and she picks him up, and for the next 45 minutes, she holds this little baby. And we get back there and they kind of give us the rundown of how this house was created. Robin, the original woman that started the whole thing, why she bought the place, why she turned it into this. Tell us how much money it cost, takes them to run it. It's like $500,000 a year to run this place. They have 30 kids. They can have 32 kids.
Yeah, they were at 31 whenever we were there.
They can have up to 32 kids, so they're pretty much packed out. They do guys and girls. They try to do in that age range of between 7 and 12. But they do have babies. They had about 7 babies there that were still nursing.
Yeah, they're one of the only ones that doesn't have an actual age range. Like, they try to stick in there, but they said there's no other children's home in Jamaica that allows for siblings with different ages. So they range anywhere from actually newborn to 18. They just try to stick with that. But there was several of those because they said, parents have babies when they didn't mean to a lot of times. So a kid might be 7 years old before the next baby is born. And so they try to keep siblings together. And one of the cool things with that too is that they put a little bit of the responsibility, that sibling of the one child, on the other siblings too. They try to make sure that they're teaching them like, hey, we need your help. That's your baby sister. So we're going to need a little help from you. And not too much, but just to try to teach them responsibility. I thought was cool.
We've been together for about an hour and a half today so far, and I have not heard either one of you say Yaman.
Yaman.
How many
respect, man.
How many times did you hear Yaman?
Constantly. And soon.
Yeah.
Soon.
Yeah. Respect. Ha ha! I met my equal there.
He did, dude. Like we walked into this restaurant and this guy goes, ha ha! And I was like, that is an African Bigg Vinny, or Jamaican Bigg Vinny, right there. And then
I saw him like, yeah, and he's like, yeah, and then we just ran up and started hugging each other.
Dude, it was that way the entire night.
I got a picture. I'll send it for the podcast to be edited in. But this dude was great, man, and he was supposed to come to the show and he didn't show up. Probably had to work, make a living. Anyways, he was our waiter for the night, and he was amazing,
dude. And they had a saying that I loved. It was here in Jamaica, there's no problems, only situations.
Yeah.
And I was like, that's great. And they're like, no, that's not a problem. And he's like, when you hear Jamaicans say, no problem, man, no problem. Like, it's because nothing's a problem. There's a situation and you can find an answer to that situation.
Yeah. Solution based.
Yep.
It was cool.
Amazing how many musicians too. Like everywhere you went, you saw traces of American musicians that hung out there excessively.
Yeah. It was really cool though. It was the Rolling Stones were there a lot.
Mm-hmm.
Mick Jagger. But the one they looked up to the most was Johnny Cash. I mean,
bar none.
I met just a random guy on the beach come up, random guy. He was working there, but he comes around the corner. He's like, y'all need anything to drink, and then some other stuff they offered us. And I'm like, no, I didn't hear what he said. He goes, you want some weed, man? I thought he said, do you need any food? That's where my mind was at. I was like, no, dude. I said, we just got done eating a while ago. I said, I'm stuffed. I said, we just got massages. We're just going to relax. And he's like, okay. He goes, where are you from? I was like, Tennessee. He goes, that's where Johnny Cash is from. I can't do the accent. I always turn into an Irish guy for some reason. I start doing it. Anyway,
or a leprechaun.
A leprechaun. Well, that's an Irish guy.
Yeah, but it's
top of the morning tea. Anyways, he starts talking. He's like, yeah. He goes, he goes, you're from where Johnny Cash is from. I was like, well, I think he's from Arkansas originally, but he lived a lot of time in Tennessee. So anyways, he starts telling us, he's like, oh, I went to a school and he was the funder. He funded this entire school down there. And he's like, oh, he used to come out into town and he would buy all the local vendors crafts and different stuff. And we got to go to his home. That's a whole other story as we get into this. But he said, yeah, he goes, they were the nicest people. He's like, and they took care of us and they brought Christmas presents for all the kids, all this kind of stuff. I was like, holy crap. I was like, we're kind of here doing what Johnny Cash did.
Dude, I mean, and so that, I mean, like one of the reasons that I've always been obsessed with Johnny Cash is that there's so many things in my life that have matched up with who that man was. And so that was a crazy spot to get into too, to be down there giving gifts to these little kids, focusing on them, talking to them about Jesus, playing music. And, then they were like, oh yeah, he funded one of the children's homes over there and brought Christmas all the time. I was like, of course he did. Of course he did. Because I love this man.
Yeah.
Of course that's what he was doing. And here we are doing the same thing, but, yeah, dude. I mean, like the children's home though, it was phenomenal. I think it was really great because a lot of times our wives don't get to see what we do with the charity and they get to be a part of that. Now, Jen I don't think she liked the beginning part of it because she also got to wrap 32 presents and put 32 children's names on them. The help of one of their neighbors, and Ginger came over. Yeah, but I mean, like it was so great to get to share that with them. And, one of the things that hit me there is that you never know what part of what you're doing is helping someone.
Mm-hmm.
And the great thing for Vinny and I is that as we've grown and got accustomed to doing what we feel like God is asking of us, the less I need to know what actually happened.
Yeah.
The more I'm just satisfied with going, I did what God asked of me. Whoever was blessed, maybe I find out, maybe I don't find out. But one of the things of like when you were looking at like acts of service and just taking care of people that I didn't expect, is at the end after we get all these, like they really love remote control cars. So like every boy got a remote control car. And after they were out, we realized like, oh, none of these people know how to put these batteries in. Like there's all these screws and so I set up at this little bar area over there and with a screwdriver and I'm just replacing batteries. And Vinny's over there setting up a Hot Wheels track and cleaning up trash and everybody.
I tried to convince that kid. I was like, you want to wait until we get to your bedroom to put this together? No.
Right in the middle of the doorway.
And so I put this thing. It was great.
Yeah, so I'm doing that and I finish up and Chris, the guy that's running the place, comes over to me and goes, you have no idea. This is what really shows me the heart of your people.
Yeah.
He said, because everyone else comes in and they have the big hoorah and they leave. And me and my staff have to take care of everything else. He's like, and you guys helping to put together the toys, putting all these batteries in. He was
we're putting together the toys while the girls are over there literally putting the trash in the trash bags and like cleaning up the mess.
Well, and Jen was over there like teaching the kids how to play the different games that we had. And he was like, that's what gets left. Cause like people come in and they drop all this stuff on them, but then you just made our jobs more complicated because we still have to do our regular job. And now we have all this other stuff to do. And,
well, the good thing for me was I didn't have the screwdriver and you had to have a screwdriver now to get all the stuff out. So the kids come up to me, can you put batteries in this? I was like, you got to go right around that corner. There's a guy over there with sunglasses on, Rockstar Jared. Yeah, go see him. He's like, they just kept coming from everywhere. He goes, what was you doing? I was like, I was putting a Hot Wheels track together. But you know what? It was so fun, man. That right there to me was the best part. We got to perform, which I always love to do. And we got to sing for them and they loved it, which it was pretty funny. I started doing my dancing that I always do. And I don't think nothing of it. I get up and I shake my butt. I do the splits. I do the worm, whatever. I kind of do my thing. And we're doing it to Uptown Funk, so we're going to a little bit of our rap section, not too much. And, all of a sudden I noticed like I started hitting these dance moves and all the girls are going, hey, start saying stuff. And I didn't know what it was about. Well, later on, he comes up to me, Jared says, he goes, that was so funny. He goes, he just told me that he doesn't allow, the girls are not allowed to dance, like shake their butts and stuff like that. He goes, so when you were doing it, they were like pointing to him saying, how come he gets to do it? So because I was shaking my butt and dancing, he got in trouble. He goes, I started to say stop, but then I didn't. I was like, I'm glad you didn't because I wouldn't have had a clue what you were talking about. But we put smiles on their faces. We talked about Jesus, our message. We got to really, and it was so cool because, we want to take that message everywhere we can. And we weren't sure, my story, his story, we come from different backgrounds, different places. And you're going and talking to these kids that, they don't have a home really. That is their home, but they don't have a mom and dad there every night teaching them stuff, talking to them.
One of the weird things that I didn't think about that we'd have, because when we get in front of kids, we always talk about The Voice and The Biggest Loser and all these different celebrities we know and stuff. You win them over with that, and then they're listening to you. And there it was like I said The Voice, and they were just like,
"What's that?"
What?
Is that Blake Shelton? They're like,
yeah. We go through several names, and then finally it was like, we were both on TV, and they were just like, No. It was like, all right. Well,
we're also Santa Claus.
Yeah. So anyway, we danced, we sang. It was great. They had a fun time, and they did know Uptown Funk though.
They did.
They did the woo, Anyway, so get done doing that. We meet and talk with everybody. Then we bring out the presents, and the kids are not allowed. You can't. I haven't posted this yet on social media because the kids are not allowed to be. Their faces are not allowed to be in pictures. So they have them turn their backs to us, and we have to take a picture of them holding up their presents. And I'm like, this feels so weird.
It did feel weird, and it was. And I'm gonna go ahead and say this, like, because it's not like anybody. They're not gonna know that we even did this, but like, there was another group that came while we were there.
Oh yeah,
and I couldn't help but notice, like, they got there and they immediately got a table out, and they set that table outside to where when they shot their picture, the name of the children's home was right above it.
Yeah. They
did all the things you're supposed to do with social media. And I just sat there watching it going, it's bullshit, man. It's bullshit. Like we've been over there like playing with these kids and doing stuff, and you're just watching this, and like the lack of interaction with that team, with the kids opposed to our team. And they get done and they leave, and the one of the head people there comes through and said, "Would you like us to bring a table outside so you can get a picture of the sign?" And I was like, "No, that's
Like, do you want us to?
That's not why we're here.
You want us to set up all the gifts on there that way y'all can take." I was like, "No, we're not doing that." And then also they kind of let us know, like, a lot of groups that come there will start taking selfies with themselves and the kids and like showing what they're doing to post on social media. And he's like, you have to blur their faces out if you post it,
Yeah.
I'm like, dude.
Well, they're like, you're making that kid feel like that they're a prop.
Yeah.
And
we just didn't want to do that. And the group that was there, and he said, it was odd that he said this. He goes, literally, it's more of the Jamaican groups that are coming to help that do the more social media stuff, which I was surprised by.
For the listeners and the viewers, we will be posting stuff about that.
Mm-hmm.
But we're trying to find and understand how to put together something that's sensitive to what the issue is. Because at the same time, if you're not letting people know what's going on, then you can't raise money and help people.
Yeah, I think the biggest
so
thing
it's a very fine line of, how do you let people know? With back in the day when you did stuff like that, it was just because you were doing it. Now we've changed social media so much that it's all about, look at me and look at what I did. And like, it's almost made it really hard to share something that you're trying to help with.
We don't want to post it for self-glorification. We want to post it to help them raise money, because they do have $500,000 in expense every year. And the Americans that are working there, they don't get paid a dime. And that was Robin, the original woman that started the thing. It was her whole deal. She didn't want the Americans to get paid anything, but the Jamaicans do get paid. And these guys if they work all day long, they make about $20 American dollars.
Yeah, they make between $3 and $5 a person that had been there 23 years.
Yeah,
was getting $5 an hour.
Yeah. So the Americans that go to work there, do they live on site?
They live on site.
Yeah. On site.
There's only a few of them that are American.
It's a 2-year minimum?
2-year minimum.
Mm-hmm.
Wow.
Once you sign on to be the director. Now, obviously.
Now, the director just signed up for another year.
Yeah.
But they said that they partially moved there for their kids to teach them a little different lifestyle. Mm-hmm. And they were like, we don't really know how to leave here. They were like, but I also feel like we'll probably move back to the United States for our kids once again to, because they need the interaction in the States as well, So.
Yeah, and they have their own little home on the premises where it's like their place to get away from everything and all that. And the dude Chris was such a nice guy, and you could just tell like his heart was there.
Yeah,
like he was there to give up your job, to give up your home, to do all these other things, and you're there because your heart's there. It was an interesting story too, because his wife was from Hawaii, And she wanted to move back to Hawaii. And so he had literally fought that for like 4 years. He's like, no, we're staying here in Virginia. I got this great job. We're making tons of money, all this other stuff. And finally he said, man, he started to realize that he was only getting to spend 2 to 3 hours a day with his kids because he was working all the time. He goes, and those hours were like getting them ready for school, or he was leaving before they go to school.
It's crazy that he brought that up that way. It's like, that's standard. That's just life.
That's what people do. And that's why when people say to me sometimes like, yeah, but you're going to miss so much of your kid's life. I'm like, well, not as much as you'd think, because I might be gone for, sometimes 10 days. Well, I mean, I think the longest we've done probably is 12 to 15 days since the last few years. But when I'm home, I get my kids up, get them ready for school. I take them there. I'm doing all this stuff. Jared's at a different stage of life than I am now, but I do spend a lot of time with my kids when I'm home, but then I do have to leave for a few days. But when I come back, it's like, no, I'm there with them. We eat dinner together every night. We pray together. We put them to bed. We do all these things. So it was interesting to see that he had made that point. Is like, I started to realize I was only getting a couple hours a day with my kids. And so then I went to my wife and said, okay, let's do it. Let's just sell everything off and let's move back to Hawaii. And, I'll have enough money to just live. And she had a job there already for herself. And literally the guy from the church, that they were going to, come to him and said, hey, I got something for you might like. And then literally tells him about this place. It's tropical like Hawaii. It's this and this. You'll get to be giving back and doing your charity work. All this other stuff. And he goes, and it just made sense. And that's just where God led us, So I thought that was cool that God led him there. But yeah, back to what you were saying. The reason I put out a whole lot yet, other than, just a very little, about this trip, about what we did there. We put out other stuff about the trip. Like we got to go to Johnny Cash's house, which is cool. But I don't ever want it to seem like, look what I did. Look what our charity did. I mean, it's like, obviously we want to do that because we want people to know we're out there doing good works, especially, the people that have sponsored, donated, do all that. We want them to see what we're doing, but we don't want the kids to ever feel like they're being used as a pawn for that. So it's funny that we had the same struggle, as we hadn't even talked about that, but it's like, man, how do I post this without it looking like self-glorification? Because what I really want to do is draw attention to Robin's Nest. Now they made a post today. Had a lot of pictures and different stuff. And,
did they?
And I shared.
You know how much I watch social media.
Yeah.
So.
They tagged you, but they tagged. So I shared that today from their post. And that made me feel a lot better about, hey, this is them sharing it, and then I'm going to share that. And then I got to tag them in it so people can see where they can donate and do all that kind of stuff.
That's what I was going to say is, like, I think that's how you make the personal post. Yeah. Like you two individually or whoever else is struggling with it is it's got to be tied to an offer to help.
And I think a lot of it too is probably one of the reasons that we feel the need to do this podcast too, is that the more you can let people know who you actually are, then it becomes a total different thing. Which, speaking of, when this podcast comes out, we should probably put that link on here.
Oh yeah, we will for sure. Yeah. Well, I mean, like I said, man, what I was saying earlier, I didn't realize how much it was going to feed my soul. But I'm leaving there like immediately thinking. But
you're always shocked by that. I mean, that's what's incredible is like when you go and do something good for someone else with nothing for yourself, like it, for us, that part of it, like I said, that had nothing to do with the trip. It was just something we added on. And it was kind of a pain in the butt to get there. If you're honest about it, it was an extra 3 hours out of your day riding in
Originally, this whole entire thing was to raise money for our charity, for us to go speak at schools here and to do things that we.
And instead, we spent money
from our charity. Instead, we spent about $1,000 more than what came in from it. But that's just how God, puts you in the place. And man, my soul got fed. You started to realize like, how great you do have it. Because some days you're like, man, struggle, we all got struggles. We're all fighting. We're all doing this stuff. Not necessarily, in the money range, but it's like every day, oh man, I got so much to do today, and some people would just give anything to have one thing to be able to do, So, we actually met these two twins down there and they own this
gettofoundation.org.
Yeah. And
Get to Foundation.
Instead of saying you have to, you get to. And I usually that's pretty much my mentality all the time. I think it's his and yours as well. But it was cool to see these brothers, twin brothers, both of them played college sports, have that same kind of mentality. But
it depends on how big the honeydew list is. Half of that is get to, half of that is have to.
Yeah. Well, that's different. Think about things you woke up and chose, But anyways, no, it was really cool, man. I left there immediately thinking, okay, how can they're trying to get a new truck. They need, and they don't have they don't have a running water system.
Right.
They have running water, but they have to go and get the water and bring it up and put it in these big tanks. So they said they use 18,000 gallons a week or something like that. So they're constantly having to go down to the bottom of this hill, fill up all these jugs, bring them back up, pour them in, go back down, fill them up, So they're constantly, filling up these 5-gallon jugs in order to fill up these big tanks. And they have this truck that goes up and down the hill to go get to the water. And the truck is really broken down. And they said it's going to cost them about $35,000 to get a new one. Not a brand new one, but new to them. And so we immediately started thinking, and it's so funny because I looked at Jared, I'm like, dude, all I've been thinking about is how can we raise the money to get that truck for them? He goes, that's all I've been thinking about. Sure enough, Josh Likens, the guy that put on the golf tournament, he goes, guys, I'd really like to get together and try to figure out how we could put something together to pay for that truck. I was like, dude, we just said the same thing a while ago. So we're in the process of that, and you just start thinking, how can you help more? Because you see somebody that has a need that's bigger than your own. And man, it was just, my soul was fed. I felt Jesus. I felt the Holy Spirit in that place, which was awesome. You could tell the people that are there caring for it really care about their job. So the Robin's Nest in Jamaica, I don't know what part of Jamaica, but it's in Jamaica.
I think we can get the truck. We only need 100 people to give us $350 or 1,000 people to give us $35.
Somebody step up.
All we need.
I'll put in $350.
I'll put in $350.
I'll definitely put in $350.
Well, there's 3 out of how many?
All right. So we only need 97 more people.
I think we can do it. There is a fourth in the room. He's slowly raising.
He's not allowed to speak. Yeah. So,
well, you never know. Anyways,
he did say he's got a problem.
I fully believe. I think we can get this thing sponsored up and done. And I know we're going to. And the thing is they're hoping that they can sell that truck they got to somebody that's local, so they can have it as a backup as well. My hopes would be that we could get it to them to where they didn't have to sell that truck. They could have 2 trucks running, and if that truck did break down,
that's not a bad way to look at it though. So there's 3 people out of 100.
Yeah. So
you just have 97. So you're just looking at running that sort of campaign.
Yeah.
And so it should be like, how many people do you want to be today? Because I know a lot of people that can be a lot of people.
Yeah. I will be 10 of those people, not me. I can't do 10 of them, but I wish I could, But no, it's going to be a cool thing, and I cannot wait to.
Well, I like you said that because I want to bring this up because you hear people say that, but when Vinny says something like that, or Jeff Suter says something like that, or I say something like that, I also know that you definitely could be one of those guys. You're just giving to a whole lot of other things and people and places.
Yeah.
Stuff all the time.
We have many charities that we donate to. We sponsor people for Christmas every year. We do a lot of stuff, and we don't post it on social media, so it's, but yeah, it's just one of those deals where I don't think it'll be that hard to find.
Nah.
I never looked at it like that until you just said it.
If we start the campaign as soon as we're out of here today, we could potentially have the $35,000 before this episode even airs. And then everything that comes in from when it airs could be them maintaining both trucks.
Yeah.
That's a cool idea.
Goals. We had to put together a little graphic.
I don't think we need a graphic. I think we just send that text message out to your peoples.
Okay.
We can make it happen.
Well, let's do a uniformed text that we can all send out and put out there. I think it'd be cool to put a picture with it. Let people see.
Okay.
Did you get a picture of the truck?
Nope.
It's got pink wheels.
You're talking to the least social media guy. No, I didn't take pictures.
I'll talk to Josh. Josh got pictures, I'm sure.
The only place I did get pictures was in the Johnny Cash house. Do you want to talk about that now?
Yes. Okay. Robin's Nest, you're going to check it out. You're going to love it. It's going to be awesome. You will not regret the money you spend there because it is being used.
Absolutely.
It's one of the things I love about going to the places ourselves is we're watching it be used. These kids are happy. They're getting treated right. They're learning. They've put the mechanism. They didn't have, before Chris got there, they had one TV that had one DVD player. Now they have a TV in pretty much every room. They got Wi-Fi. They got, Jared, part of the gifts, they asked him, they said, could you possibly get an Xbox? And he goes, we're going to get you 2 Xboxes. So
because they got the girls,
the girls dorm, the boys dorm,
dorms.
So they got 2 Xboxes, so they'll be able to watch and got them. Gosh,
bunch of games,
yeah, like a bunch of games, and then of course they have the Wi-Fi.
Which, by the way, I don't know if you know this, but if you're going to a Christian-based organization or a children's organization, finding games that are fun, but that was tough.
Yeah, most of them are rated mature.
Yeah, absolutely.
I mean,
Yeah, so it was cool.
So anyways, you're going to love that. Robin's Nest was awesome. Jamaica, that part of it was huge for us and made us.
Yeah. So let's get to this, because this is what I noticed once again with God. When I don't focus on me and I just go do something good from my heart, every time, and I'm not saying it's going to always happen for you if you do this, but in my life so far, every single time, God gives me back something that I could have never asked for, that I would have never even known to ask for.
Oh, yeah.
And that was this time. So Stan and I see Ira Dean come into the hotel. He gets in the day after us, the night after we went to the children's home, and walking in like, no, if you guys know who Ira Dean is, he's from Trick Pony. Also wrote the biggest song of 2023. He's a fabulous writer, and more than that, just a fabulous, amazing, God-fearing man, true patriot, just a good
and the
dude.
Best storyteller
ever. But partially because when he's like 19 or something like that, he comes to Nashville, and long story short, he winds up being friends with the Cash family, and kind of basically gets taken in as like a godson to Johnny Cash. And so I see him out in the lobby, and I run up to him. I was like, dude, what's up? And he was like, dude, you're not going to believe this. Johnny Cash's house is like right across the street. And I was like, what? And he was like, dude, I used to come here all the time with him. And I was like, that's crazy. And they were getting married, him and his wife getting married there in February. And so he's like, we're going to go over there and check things out, and get things set up. I was like, that's very cool. And so the next day after that, I was like, man, we're going to see if there's a tour or something of Johnny's house. And Ira's just been telling us all these stories about the house, all these different things that's happened in the house, and all the different times he's had, and how he went out there to like check the place out, and they were talking to him about different rooms and different things. And he was like, yeah, but did you know this? And did you know this? And it was like, so he was teaching.
He was touring the tour guide.
Yeah, he knows
teaching
more than
the tour guide. And so we find this little tour that's going to take us there, and we lucked up or got it up, I guess. And the six of us had our own private tour.
Yeah.
There's nobody else on the tour. And we get in there and immediately start talking about Ira. And the girl is like, oh my gosh. She's like, I didn't really get to talk to him yesterday, but he had so much knowledge about this estate. Feel free while I'm going through this. If there's anything you know about this, please let me know. And she's like, I wanted to talk to him and I didn't get to. And so we started doing, as we we're going through the house, we were like, well, he said this, he said that. And like, first thing we get there and we sit down on this bench and all start taking pictures on this one in particular bench. And she's like, okay, so you want to tell me what's up with that bench? And we're like, yeah, Johnny Cash used to sit on this bench every evening and drink peach tea and just watch the trees and just chill. Yeah. And so we all want to get a picture here. And so one of the funniest stories with it is Johnny said, Ira said when Johnny got older, when his last birthday, he was like, he couldn't really see anymore. He was like, it's his birthday, and I want to give him a present. I was like, what do you get Johnny Cash? He has everything. He was like, so I find these candle holders of a naked man and a naked woman. And he was like, and the naked man is like, like it's like in this pose, he's like, little bit dick out. He's like totally naked. And he was like, and so knowing that Johnny can't see, he was like, I come up to him and was like, hey Johnny, I got you something. And he was like, oh, that's nice. Let me take a look at it. And he's like, and he's got it like right here. And he goes, oh, that's a girl. And he was like, yeah, check out this other one. And he's like, oh, and that's a boy. That's a boy. And he was like, that's the last that we had talked about those candle holders. And he was like, and as she's touring us through the house, and he was like, and then we get to the bedroom that I always slept in, which was also the same bedroom that Billy Graham always slept in. He was like, and she was telling me, Billy Graham used to sleep here. And he goes, yeah, Johnny had that bed made special for him, extra long, because Billy was so tall. And she was like, oh, that's really cool. And he said, did you know that Billy Graham wrote 4 books in this room? And she was like, no, that's super cool. And he's like, then I turn around, and there's one of those naked candlesticks. He put it in my room.
Yeah.
And he was like, and I just started crying immediately. And I was like, that I gave that to him on his last birthday. And, goes through all this, and just seeing this house where Ira confirmed like everything in this house was where Johnny left it. Mm-hmm. Like it was in the same exact place. And one of the most chilling things that was told, and to get to stand on the staircase and realize where it happened was super cool. But he said the last visit there before Johnny came home and died, he said, they asked him if he would walk Johnny upstairs. And he said, we got halfway up the stairs, and Johnny was like, hey, take a break for a minute. And he stand there for a minute. He said, and he looked over at me and he grabbed my face and he goes, "How does it feel to carry your hero up the stairs?" He's like, "Jeez."
Also, on this same staircase, there's about a 6 to 8 foot alligator
skin. Right.
And there's this picture of this guy standing with Johnny and a couple of rifles, and that alligator hung up behind him. And I was like, "Oh, that's cool." I said, "So you killed an alligator?" They're like, "Oh, there's way more to the story than that." So this guy that was in the picture with him was like a well-known alligator hunter. And one day he was out hunting, and this individual alligator jumped up and bit his arm off, like literally ripped his arm off. And so he was going to go out and go hunt and find this alligator and kill it. And Johnny Cash said to him, he goes, "Hey, don't kill that thing yet. Wait till I get back down there around Christmas time. We're going to go out." And he said, he goes, "I want to kill that old mean alligator for you." So they loaded up in the boat and they went and found this alligator, and Johnny Cash killed that alligator for biting his friend's arm off.
Now, I still want to know.
How'd they know which alligator?
How'd they know which alligator it was?
No, it was a big old alligator, though.
Size.
It must have had some sort of marking, something that
yeah, something. Somehow he knew. I don't know. I mean, it made me think of like in Happy Gilmore.
Yep, that's exactly where I went with it.
When he killed it. But yeah, they had the picture of him with the rifles and everything, killed it. And so that was cool. There was so many things. Some of the things I don't think we should tell. We'll wait until we have Ira on to tell some of the stuff like the,
I don't know.
The yard.
I mean, Ira's just going to tell a different version of it.
Well, I don't mind telling it, but you should tell it. You tell it better than me.
Oh, well, I was kind of going through the house.
Yeah, let's go through the house.
The coolness of like just seeing like, one of the things I didn't know about Johnny was that, he kept a camera on him, they said, pretty much all the time. Like he'd have family and friends over and he just snapped pictures all the time. So like apparently his other two houses look just like this one, just pictures of friends and family everywhere. Everywhere. And so you're going through and just, getting pictures of like getting to sit where you thought Johnny probably sat to eat dinner, and the table where he had breakfast and on this bench outside. And Ira had told me in the Billy Graham room, he was like, he wrote 4 of his big books in there. He's like, so if you get a chance, wait until everybody leaves that room. He goes, sit down on that bed. And I was like, okay. So we left the room and I sat down on the bed and I just prayed there and was thinking like, that's so crazy. Like this feeling of like sitting in a bed that Billy Graham, was in and writing these books.
I mean, think about all the prayers he said at night when he was sitting in the
bed. Absolutely. Yeah. Absolutely. And so like that started kind of, running my mind into like all the people that were in this house, because of how loved Johnny was. Right. And, go through like the kitchen cracked me up because like he had changed nothing. They bought that house in 1963, redid it, and left it that way. Like at one point, they were like, we don't want a gas stove anymore. So they brought electric one in, just plugged it into a wall beside in the kitchen. They didn't replace the stove. Like they just plugged it into a whole, like everything was just very, you could tell like, I don't care. This is just a house.
Yeah.
This is where I'm
at. It's where I come to relax.
Yeah.
The cool thing about this house, it was built in the 1600s. The 1600s. It was like a Spanish conquistador or whatever.
Yeah.
This family had built this house and the history of it was so cool. So we get going through it and there's like this place and I'm like, what's that? And they're like, that's the dungeon. I'm like, oh yeah, cool. And I was like, no, it's a real dungeon. It's like where they would, I guess theoretically they would go there to, they had slaves and they would go there and they would,
punish the slaves.
However, in this instance, this group that owned this home was so nice to all their slaves.
Well, so when the slaves were freed, they went around and burned down all the houses of the big plantations.
They went and burned them all down. Well, this is the only one that they didn't burn down because this family was so good to their slaves that they never felt like slaves. Like they were treated well. They never were tortured or anything else. But every house that was built had those things. But I just thought that was really cool that, here this one house still standing from the 1600s. Like, think about everything that house has seen, that road has seen, those bricks. What if those walls could talk? Like, what kind of stories would they tell? Like we're hearing the Johnny Cash story from like what people really know about Johnny Cash in this home, but like this massive family, this almost royalty. I mean, the place is huge,
Yeah.
And so it was really cool to like stand there in that home and think about, man, what is the history of this place?
Right.
And so anyways, so we're seeing all these cool things. We're learning all these stories and I'm going to let you tell this next part because this is the part that I thought was really cool. And you told me.
So luckily, Ira was there. So he was telling us all this stuff that they weren't going to tell you on the tour. And he kind of prefaces with several stories. He was like, hey, just ask him about this. Ask him about this.
Yeah.
And so I was like, so I hear there was some people killed on this property. And the lady's like, we don't talk about that. And I was like, but they were. And she was like, well, we only talk about it if people already know. So you can tell me what you know, and I will tell you if it's true. I was like, okay. So we start talking about it, and she starts kind of jumping in the conversation. Long story short, what had happened was basically these pirates had come up, broke into Johnny's house, and tied Johnny and John Carter and June up in the dungeon, and were trying to get money out of Johnny. And Johnny kept telling us like, hey, I don't have any of my money here. Like I keep it in the United States. You're not going to get anything. I don't have anything here. And so they weren't buying in. Apparently they left the dungeon at some point, and Johnny was able to get free, but I guess he couldn't get John Carter and June free. So he got upstairs to call the police. Calls the police. Police comes down. They take care of everything. Like at different points, apparently they had a machete to John Carter's neck and telling Johnny they were going to kill him if he didn't give him the money and all this kind of stuff. Like just imagine like what that felt as a father, right? Like what that felt as a father. But on top of it, you bought a house that had a dungeon in it. And then they use that dungeon on you. Like that's freaking crazy to me, right? So they get everybody safe. And Johnny told Ira, he's like, then a little later on, one of the law officers comes up to me. He's like, we'd like to see you around back, Mr. Cash. And so like we're seeing like where this all happened. Like there's this doorway coming out of the dungeon, out of the house, with a walkway under this little tunnel, and it leads to the backyard. And right at the backyard is the backside of the kitchen. And so apparently they lined those three dudes up there. And when they brought Cash around, they said, you've been your family is such a good supporter of Jamaica, and you've loved this island. You've taken such good care of us. And we're so embarrassed that someone would come in and treat your family like this after all the good that you've done here. And because apparently the Cash family was just very, very giving. And like we said, orphanage, children homes, schools, all sorts of things that they funded. And, so like, we want to make sure that we set an example that no one will ever harm you or your family here. And then they executed those three dudes right there in Johnny's yard.
And pass that on to let everybody know not to ever mess with the Cash family. And this wasn't something that he ordered, but passed it on so that nobody know. Never mess with them again. And never again did they have a break in. People lurking on the property. I mean, they made it like public.
Which kind of thinks, maybe we're not handling things right in America.
But but the cool thing too is when you think back, like that house was so respected from the original owners that they didn't burn it down. Now Johnny was so respected because of the way he treated everybody, and he lived in that house, that they were willing to say, no, if you do this to Johnny, this is what happens to you. Yeah. And so it's just thinking about that as that house continues to live and everything, which now, people are doing tours. Nobody lives in the house. He had bought it from John Rawlings, who owns pretty much all of Jamaica. He owns a lot of the resorts and all this other stuff. So he had bought it from John Rawlings, and they worked out a deal to where he sold it back to John Rawlings. If he passed away, that John Rawlings got to buy it back. So it was,
yeah.
Purchased.
But I mean, they left it exactly the same. Yeah, Ira's like, dude, it was like, it looked exactly the same. It was crazy.
They have people come clean it, keep the yard done. Like they pay all that, and then they do little tours. But I don't think that many people know about the tours, to be honest.
No, because I mean, it wasn't at the hotel or anything. Like I said, we didn't even know, like, you know how big of a Cash fan I am. And like, I didn't even know there was a house there about any, but so we, that's what I'm saying. Like those little God sprinklets, of like, hey, good job, guys. Let me show you this. So then we get to the most epic part of this. It's like we've walked through this whole thing. It was absolutely amazing. And, my wife is like always looking to how she can just create moments for people. And so she goes to the tour guide while we're over there walking around. She was like, hey, do you mind if, because my husband and his friend are musicians, can they go play his piano and sing? And she was like, sure.
Wow.
And so the next thing I know, we're sitting at Johnny Cash's piano. And I was like, as soon as my hands hit it, all of a sudden it hit me. It was like, whoa, this isn't just Johnny. Like he bought this in 1963. You're talking about Sun Records. You're talking about Elvis, Jerry Lee, Waylon, Chris Christopherson. They also said that he wrote pretty much all of his albums in that house. So it means like the amount of singer-songwriters that have sat at these keys or in this room on guitars, like just, I was just blown away. Like we'll have to clip the song together that I played because like I screwed up so many times because I was just nervous.
We were both
just
so nervous,
sitting there.
Yeah. It was a big surprise for me because I knew he was going to play and I was going to stand up there with him, you know, just because it was cool. But I didn't know what song he was going to play. And he starts playing. I'm like, whoa, wait a second, you know. And I'm like coming around the corner, you know, because I was slower than everybody because my ankle. But I'm coming around the corner and I hear the song start off, and it's a song that I wrote with my buddy Josh Helms, and that ever since the first time he heard it, he literally woke me up out of sleep. He'd be like, how come you never played me this song? You know, because Jerry Weeks played it for him. And he's like, dude, I want to cut that song. I want to cut that song. So it was an honor for me anytime that somebody, especially a person that's a great songwriter and a great singer, you know, like Jared wants to cut my song, you know. So he starts playing that song. And I immediately got emotional. Like I got tears in my eyes because I'm sitting there thinking like, and you're looking, there's a picture of Johnny and June directly behind I'm going to get emotional right now. See, this is what happens. There's a picture of Johnny.
Big cry, baby.
You got emotional too. There's this picture of Johnny and June right behind the piano, like a big portrait, like really nice. And he starts playing and starts singing. And, you know, I could feel the tremble in his hands, even when he was hitting the keys. And it was a surreal moment as a musician, to stand there with your best friend singing a song that you wrote on Johnny Cash's piano, where he had written his records, where he had done all this stuff. But he started playing and I could just tell. He goes, I'm so nervous. I'm going to mess it up. And he literally he's playing it like twice as fast as it's supposed to be played. Yeah. And so we shot it again. But it was an awesome moment, man.
Well, he asked me why I chose that song. For one, it's one of my favorite, like all time songs. I love it. But it also, the name of the song is Words. And I thought, what more appropriate for a house that Johnny wrote all these songs in than to play a song about words and what they do.
Yeah.
But
no, it was cool. And then my wife obviously is a musician as well, and she got to sit down and play piano there.
Vinny didn't sit down. He thought about it. He kind of sat down for a minute, and then he was like, I don't know if this bench is going to hold me. It's pretty old.
Since the piano was...
we've had the discussion about the lawn chairs, right? Like, he can only sit in certain lawn chairs. Like,
weld it better in the corners. What's this made out of? Steel? No, I sat down. It's an old wooden... it's as old as the house or older, probably.
It was creaking when I sat down.
Yeah.
So it was...
And so I started to sit down, and I'm like, nope. And then I played... but then I got real smart, though, and I played Lean on Me. You know, because I had to lean over on the piano. So, but no, that was just a cool moment. And then, of course, you know, we got pictures with our wives and as a group, you know, out in front of the house, and it was just a special moment, you know. And you never know that's going to happen when you take off like that.
Yeah, and to I know we got to start wrapping up, but to start that, like, that's still what I'm watching in my life, is that the more I focus on whatever God is telling me to do, man, it's just this miraculous, cool things that happen in my life, you know? And I know that most people don't travel that much, so I'm not saying that you're going to get a chance to play Johnny Cash's piano in Jamaica. But the things that I would have, if you'd left it up to me before we got on that trip and you said, hey, Jared, what would be a perfect trip to you? They wouldn't have looked anything like what that trip looked like. Yeah. But I've traveled so much. And this trip literally is definitely going to go in my top, guaranteed. No matter where I go in my life, that'll still be in the top 5. It's definitely in the top 2 now. Those are moments that you can't make them up. You can't think of them. And it really registered with me more and more, like how often we're cutting ourselves, or not cutting is not the right word, but we're not getting the full blessing that God has to offer, because we're so certain that this thing over here is going to be grand. This thing over here is what we want. I want to do this, and this is how it's going to look, because you have no idea what's around it. And literally, you're sitting at the Hilton having no clue that Johnny Cash, and the people are playing golf, and the golf path is going across Johnny's driveway, and they don't know it.
Yeah.
They don't know it. Like all these things that God has all around you, that if you'll just go, hey, God, whatever you want, the amount of blessings, the things that he'll just open up for you. And it really just made me start thinking about, that you guys already know that I'm already thinking about this, but even more so of like, if I just follow him, because the fear is always, well, if I'm not focused on how much money I'm making, if I'm not focused on growing my business, if I'm not focused on this and how do I get bigger as an artist and blah, 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 blah. If I'm not focused on all these things, then how will they happen?
Right.
Well, dude, you focus on God and it's amazing all the things that just happen.
Yeah.
As long as you're willing to work. I mean, we still had to get in a janky bus and go up this hill, like I still had to stop. And
keep in mind, to the right of you is a drop off. Okay. So it's this little road and then there's it's a lot of bamboo. So you wouldn't drop too far. You get caught up in this bamboo is like this big around. It's huge. But it's still getting there and it's like, and you're getting in with a driver you don't know. And of course you get told all this stuff. You got to be careful in Jamaica. There's a lot of bad places. You're getting in this thing. You're like, oh yeah, we're just going to turn off this road and go into this deep, dark woods. I'm like, we sure this is what we're supposed to be going, people, but once again, you trust God and you get there. And, it was really cool because every time it's like, oh yeah, it's but when you get there, it's paradise. And when we were leaving, they're like, so are y'all going to leave or stay? I'm like, no, we got to go back home. He goes, but you're going to come back, right? And I was like, oh yeah, we definitely want to come back. He's like, yeah, this is paradise. He goes, a lot of people come here to visit and never go back. I was like, that sounds like it could be really awesome or not really awesome if depending on how you never go back.
We'll be there for the next one. I know that.
Yeah, absolutely. Did y'all fill out your stuff for your passports?
Done, yeah.
Because it could be a lot earlier than we think going back, especially we raise this money. Or when we raise this money for this truck.
Yeah, but we're trying to decide how when to put in the golf event and all that kind of stuff, what makes the most sense. Clearly, December was not the right month to pick, but it was great. Like, charity still made a little bit of money. We were able to do some good stuff, and we still had a great time with friends but it was phenomenal.
Well, I mean, I know we only got a few minutes up, but the other cool thing was we got to take our wives with us. We don't always get to do that. Jerry gets to do it more because, his kids are at the age now where they can be at home.
But it's still hard because, she's got that business. She's thriving.
Yeah, she's rocking and rolling. Jenny, this is the first time in 6.5 years that Jenny has this is the only time ever in the history of us having kids that she's left the kids. So it took a lot of leap of faith for her just to be like, okay, I'm going to go and the kids are going to be here. And what if they don't react well? And they did great. We had her parents come in. We FaceTime with them every day and did all that kind of stuff. But getting to have my wife there and us getting to have time together that wasn't based around the kids. Because when you have kids, you always have these things like, well, we're not going to let the kids run the show and this and that. But it's not that they run the show. It's that if you love your kids and you're doing the right things, you are putting them in extracurricular activities. You are making sure that they're learning. You're making sure they have proper foods and doing all this stuff. We're not the kind to just run to a fast food restaurant. Not saying that if that's what you want to do, that's what you do. I'm just saying for us, that wasn't the way we want to raise our kids. We don't just throw them on an iPad and say, hey, go in there and keep yourself busy. So us having this moment together, it gave us a chance to reconnect and have that moment too, which was another part that fed my soul, was getting to have that time with my wife where it's like, just me and you.
Yeah, no babysitter to worry about.
Yeah, I mean, anytime we go on date nights and stuff like that, but it's like, okay, we got 5 hours. We got to get there, get something to eat, figure out if we want to get massages or if we want to do something else. Do we have time for a pedicure or whatever? And then you're rushing back, and then you get back, and the kids are never in bed. Then you spend.
I want to see you getting a pedicure. That's a visual that I've never.
We can do that for the podcast one day. I like getting pedicures. You ever got a pedicure?
Yeah, I don't like them.
Yeah, but you don't.
I'll tell you something I did like though that happened out there that felt like a pedicure. It's like my wife has always wanted to see, does they call it luminescent plankton? Plankton. Yeah. So there's certain places that they have these in tropical areas, but it's only certain times of the year. And it's basically this plankton come up to the top of the water during the day and they collect the sunlight and then they go back down in the water. And then if you go in and disturb them, they glow.
Yeah.
And so you can stick your hand in the water and then move it and you just leave a streak of glow in the water. So I found this place that would let you swim in it. And like you swim in it, like pull your arm out of the water and it's like these glowy little things just fall off your arm and it's the craziest thing. But my wife has always wanted to do it and that happened to be there. So I kind of looked at it once again like it's another God thing. The sacrifice of her helping to get all the toys together and do all that stuff that God was like, well, guess what? I'm going to show you something that you've never been able to find. Because we've looked at so many trips to try to find this for.
I've been to Jamaica 5-ish times. Didn't know Johnny Cash's home was there and did not know this was a thing, period, anywhere.
Well, let me just tell you the added bonus. Jen volunteered to be the first person to jump in because she was worried if it was going to be cold, that if everybody else jumped in and had a bad reaction, that she wouldn't jump in. So she jumps in first. Well, there was a jellyfish there, and she landed right on the jellyfish, and it
Got a
wrapped
big
around
old
her
burn
arm.
right across her arm.
It
Yeah.
stung the hell out of her arm, yeah.
Yeah, but so the bottom of it, they told us, is going to feel like peanut butter and jelly, and so none of the women wanted to stick their feet in it. I immediately am like, I want to know what it feels like peanut butter and jelly.
I love
stick
peanut
my
butter
feet
and
in it, and I was like, I'll be damned, I feel just like peanut butter and jelly. So the sand, like you stick your foot in, or you stand on it, and you automatically sink down like 2-3 inches. But then you don't really sink anywhere. But you can dig your toes in it, and if you point your toes, it'll make you go down further. But then you still stand there, and you can pull your foot out and stand on like super, super bizarre stuff. So I spent most of my time like just wailing around with my arms and making it glow and digging in the sand. And that night when I got home or got back to the hotel, I pulled my slides off, and I was like, my feet feel like baby feet. Yeah. Like they were so incredibly smooth. Like it was like I just like someone had had one of those stones on the bottom of my feet for like days. Like it was just, and my feet are still like super, super smooth.
And that didn't even cost you $45.
No, he told me, he's like, it's those little fish out there, they're eating all that crap off your foot.
Either that or it's like a mud bath. Like a mud bath is the thing, right?
Yeah, maybe. I don't know, but
I don't know. All I know is when you get in in Perry County, Tennessee, if you get in that mud, you come out with a lot of mosquito bites. Okay? That's no joke.
As we were discussing earlier, no bites for me.
The tour guide swore when we got in that if we would get in, that every dude would their bamboo would grow, is what he said, but none of us noticed any difference.
Yeah, man.
Well, it's because all them fish are down there biting them.
The dude too was like, race is such a sensitive subject here, and it was fun to be in an environment where it seemed like it didn't exist.
It didn't exist, yeah.
And this guy, he goes, he's Jamaican tour guide, and he goes, "Do not worry about jumping into water, man. We have no piranhas, no snakes, no great whites, just great blacks."
I love it.
Yeah, it was a great time. I mean, there's so much more we could talk about. We are going to go ahead and start wrapping this episode, but the big takeaways from this is if you ever go to Jamaica, just know that you can go to Johnny Cash's house and you can tour it, and it's amazing. And it's gonna make you feel like you got to know Johnny Cash a little bit more, not just what you saw in the movie or what you've heard about on TV, but actually seeing how much he loved his family, how much he cared, the way he took the pictures, the way he done the stuff. So if you go to Montego Bay, make sure you go and see Johnny Cash's house.
Robinsnest.org.
Robinsnest.org. Make sure you go check that out. You can donate money there. There's so many things. But if you ever visit Jamaica, I implore you, I don't know how you get the trip or how you do it, go up there and check it out. Go see what they're doing. They're doing great things.
And if you got spoiled kids, they let you come in as teens for a week. You can have your teenagers work there with you for a week, and maybe they'll have some sort of understanding about what you give them when you get back here, or what they were just born into here.
Yeah.
I think that's a fantastic opportunity. I mean, I feel like I've got fantastic kids, but
maybe we should start charging well-to-do or above average income parents to take their children down there, and then we'll take the proceeds and give it to Rose Nest.
So I'm assuming if you go to do that, it's you pay airfare, but once you get there, what's the expense?
You eat with them, you live with them.
Yep.
Dope.
Whole thing. So that being said, make sure you share, like, comment, give us 5 stars. Give us more than that if they'll let you. And just make sure you share this with all your friends, because if you don't share it, nobody's going to know. It'll be like
Robin S. link will be.
Yeah, it'll be everything will be in the bio. In the bio, is that what you call it?
Yeah, it works.
It'll be in there. Just check it out. If you don't check it out, remember Jesus is watching you.
And even if Jesus isn't watching and you don't believe in Jesus and you just don't like children, then.
Yeah, so if you don't like kids, don't go sign up.
Don't help. Don't help. If you hate children and Jesus, don't help.
We're not the podcast for you. All right, we'll see y'all later. Holla, this is a Refined Life podcast. Refined AF.